So previously about 30% of the Chinese economy. How big is the property market now?
Definitely much smaller. It's hard to quantify it exactly because the property sector itself has such a multiplier effect. People will buy homes, they'll go and buy white goods, maybe they'll buy car, to transport. So it's very hard to quantify the actual numbers. But what we've seen from the property developers themselves, the sales are certainly down year on year. Yesterday, the National Bureau of Statistics came out with the June home sales figures, and we saw they were down about 25% year on year, especially in the lower tier cities. And even though the government's introduced many housing policy easing measures over the past few months, it's quite hard to see how this is going to transmit into actual home buyer demand, especially in the weaker locations.
So according to JP Morgan, about 50 property developers have defaulted. Dozens of them have been suspended from trade in the Hong Kong market as well. What is the outlook for the property sector? Do you expect to see some companies to go out of business? Will there be a consolidation?
We think there will. It's becoming an increasingly bifurcated sector. Every month at CreditSights, we track the contracted sales figures of about 30 plus developers, and about 8 of those have reported increases in their sales numbers. And unsurprisingly, all of those are the state-linked or the stronger developers. So we're seeing this increasing bifurcation where the strong developers are the state-linked, the large players, and then the smaller ones are kind of left to languish. And it will be an increasingly consolidated sector. Understandably, if you're a home buyer, you're not going to buy a house from a weak player as well, because there's that risk that the developer may not be able to complete your house on time, and then you're going to be left with that liability. So it's quite hard to see how the weaker developers will regain home buyer confidence and then get the cash in to turn around their businesses.
Sandra, very quickly before we let you go, CreditSights, I'm sure you've been doing your own version of say, channel checks there, right? In terms of further stimulus from the government for the property sector, what are you hearing? What can or should we expect?
It's been pretty negative, actually. We're hearing very localized policies, as you would expect, targeted measures, for example, allowing people to buy more homes in certain locations, lowering of mortgage rates, and things like that. But on the ground, it's very hard to see what would actually encourage a normal home buyer to go and buy a home from a distressed developer, especially in a weak location. At the end of the day, you can give people as much stimulus as you like, but if people are still worried that the developer may default, then it's going to be very hard to convince them to buy a property.
Yeah,